Ever wonder if we could create AI, like, not by algorithms or anything, but just by kind of throwing it into a digital world of, you know, just pure complexity?
That's a fascinating idea, right? We always think about AI like feeding data to machines, but what if we just like let them loose in this complex environment and see what happens?
Exactly. And that's what we're diving into today. We've got this research paper, and it's asking that wild question, can complexity itself, just like create AI?
It's a total mind bender, and it really makes you think about how intelligence emerges in the first place.
Okay, so walk us through this. How did they actually test this? Like, what was their AI playground?
They use something called, get this, elementary cellular automata, or ECAs.
ECAs, right? I'm biting out of
Okay.
those.
So picture this, just a single line of cells, right? And each cell can be either on or off. That's it. And each cell has like these super simple rules based on its neighbors.
Okay, so like if the cell next to me is on, I turn off, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Super basic, right? But here's the mind-blowing part. These crazy simple rules can make these really complex patterns.
No way. Really? Like what kind of patterns?
We're talking repeating structures, these like chaotic swirls, even things that look kind of, well, alive almost.
Wow, so it's not about the individual cells, it's how they like play off each other over time.
You got it. And they actually created a bunch of different ECAs, some super simple, others way more complex.
Okay, so are we talking like ECA kindergarten and then like ECA university?
Uh-huh, kind of. And get this, they trained separate AI models on these different ECAs.
Wait, so each AI had its own ECA to try and figure out, like, what is this thing doing?
Yep. Think of it like instead of predicting words, the AI is trying to predict the next state of the ECA, like what's this pattern going to do next?
So it's like each AI is glued to its own little flashing light show, try and make sense of it. How do you even measure if they're getting smarter? Do you, like, give them a little ECA quiz?
You know, it's funny you should say that. It's kind of like that. They give them what are called downstream tasks, like separate challenges.
Okay, so not just predicting the ECAs, but
Mhm.
actually using what they learned to do something new. Like what?
So one was the set of reasoning challenges,
Mhm.
picture shapes, right? And
Mhm.
they're changing color, rotating, moving around.
Like a super trippy game of Tetris.
Yeah, kind of like that. And the AI has to like crack the code, figure out the rules behind these wacky shapes.
Okay, so the million-dollar question. Did the AIs that studied the more complex ECAs, did they do better on these, like, puzzle challenges?
They did. It was clear that like soaking up all that complexity gave them a real edge. But, and this is important, there's a catch.
A catch. Always a catch. What is it?
Too much chaos, and it's like sensory overload for the AI. They can't learn anything. It's like trying to study in the middle of a hurricane.
Right, right. Too much chaos is no good for anyone.
Exactly. There's a sweet spot.
Like a Goldilocks zone of complexity. Not too hard, not too soft, just right.
Nailed it. Too simple. And the AI doesn't learn anything new. Too much chaos, and they get overwhelmed.
It's kind of like our brains, right? Like,
Yeah.
we need a certain level of challenge and stimulation to really, thrive.
It is. And that's actually something that researchers touch on, this idea that like maybe our brains evolved to handle complexity, and that's, part of why we are the way we are.
Wow, that's a whole other rabbit hole. But wait, how are these AIs actually doing it?
Yeah.
Like they're just staring at flashing lights.
Yeah.
How does that equal, like, understanding?
Right. It's wild. And that's what's so fascinating about this research, because they found that the AIs weren't just memorizing the rules of the ECA. They were doing something much deeper.
Deeper. Like, what do you mean? Were they, like, actually seeing the matrix code or something?
Okay, so get this. They found that the AIs were actually using information from, like, past states of the ECA to make predictions, even though ECAs are designed to only need, like, the current state.
Wait, hold on. So it's like they're looking back in time.
Yeah.
Like, based on what this flashing light did a few blinks ago, I think it's about to go haywire.
That's a perfect way to put it. It's like they're developing this, like, deeper memory, which suggests they're not just learning the rules, they're starting to get the underlying, like, flow of the system.
Wow. So instead of just being rule followers, they're becoming more like, I don't know, analysts or something.
Exactly. And that's what's so huge about this research, because it suggests that maybe instead of trying to program AI with, like, every single rule, we just create these environments that are, like, bursting with complexity and just let them loose.
Like giving them a digital jungle gym instead of a textbook.
Right. Exactly. It's like, let them explore, let them make mistakes, let
Yeah.
them, learn by doing, just like humans do.
And this kind of brings us back to that whole edge of chaos idea, right? It's like the ECAs themselves are like a little microcosm of that.
Right. Too much order and things get boring, too much chaos and nothing makes sense. But right there on the edge, that's where things get interesting.
This is blowing my mind. So we've gone from blinking lights to like the fundamental nature of intelligence here.
And we're not done yet. This research raises even more questions, like, if complexity is the key, what kind of complexity are we even talking about?
That's a great point. I mean, training on these like stylized ECAs is one thing, but the real world, that's a whole other level of chaos.
Right.
Like, it's not like we could just unleash these AIs into the real world and be like, all right, figure it out. Or could we?
It's tempting, right? But yeah, you're right. There's a difference between like these nice, neat ECAs and like the real world, you know? It's messy out there.
So how do we like bridge that gap? How do we create a complexity curriculum for AI that's, challenging but not like completely overwhelming?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
And this research, it doesn't have all the answers, but it definitely like points us in a new direction. Like
Yeah.
maybe instead of trying to program every single rule, we need to create environments that are more, dynamic, like the real world.
Okay, I'm with you, but give me an example. Like, what does a complex environment for AI even look like?
Okay, imagine training a self-driving car, right?
Like,
But instead of just like the rules of the road, you drop it into this crazy simulated city.
yeah.
Pedestrians everywhere, cyclists weaving in and out, even like sudden downpours.
Oh, I see. So it's like instead of learning chess from a book, they're actually playing against like a real opponent who's, not afraid to pull a crazy move.
Exactly. Or think about AI for like medical diagnoses. What if instead of textbook cases, we let it loose on like anonymized patient data with all its, weird quirks and variations?
This is making me rethink everything I thought I knew about AI. It's kind of humbling, right? Like, we think we need to hold their hand every step of the way,
Yeah.
but maybe the real key is to like let go a little, let them explore the chaos.
It's a total paradigm shift.
Wow.
And think about the possibilities. AI that's more adaptable, more creative, more, well, intelligent.
This has been an incredible deep dive. Seriously, we've gone from like flashing lights to the very essence of intelligence itself.
And I think the coolest thing is just how elegant this approach is. Complexity as like the driving force behind intelligence and, makes you think like maybe this applies to more than just AI.
Right. It's like if complexity is the secret ingredient, what does that say about, the universe? Are we all just part of some giant cosmic ECA?
Now that's something to think about. And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder that. Thanks for joining us.